So we started with research, but now we must decide, well, what do you want to offer? Typically, you can offer anything in a range of products, services, or information. In the case of software, it may combine those things depending on the application, the actual use case of the software. In the case of tech startups, it may include a product or a service, or in some cases, just information. The choice is yours, and within this module, we'll go over those options. So enjoy. Module 4, Crafting Your Offer. Lesson 1, Identifying Your Customer. So it is here where we began to gain a bit of traction in terms of ideation. You're now beginning to close the gap between your idea and establishing your customer base. So as per each idea, I can imagine that the many of them will be unique to your business. However, one thing that many businesses aspire to is defining their niche audiences. So at this point, consider what it is that you will offer, or think as to whom you shall offer this service or product or information to. So consider where they live, their age, their gender, personal interests, physique, friends, and associates. An example is, are they in a book club? Do they watch excessive television? Do they like to work out? Do they travel? Do they like to hang around other businesses or business clubs? A lot of people overlook this, but what is their income or their earning potential? Because that will have a lot to do with your offer or who your customer could become. The best way to approach this is by separating two distinct paths. As per the Oxford Dictionary, demographics would be number 1, and it's defined as statistical data relating to the population in particular groups within it. The demographics of book buyers, example would be age, race, ethnicity, gender, marital status, income, education, and employment. Those are all examples of demographics. Number 2, the second distinct path would be psychographics. So the study and classification of people according to their attitudes, aspirations, and other physiological criteria, especially in market research. So here we shall start with examples of psychographics. Personalities. Personality describes the collection of traits that someone consistently exhibits over time, as commonly assessed through a 5-factor model. So an example would be one personality trait that is part of the 5-factor model is extroversion, which measures the extent to which someone gains energy by spending time with others. If a company that sells fishing gear online discovered their average customers are men who score low in extroversion, meaning they're mostly introverted, they may want to include images of men fishing alone, enjoying peace and solitude, and their promotional materials, of course. So number 2 would be lifestyles. Lifestyle is the collection of someone's day-to-day activities, their associations, where they live, where they spend their time, etc. An example would be if a company that owns a dating app finds that many of their users are single individuals that like to spend their weekends in front of the television. The marketing team might create advertising campaigns that encourage long-term relationships as opposed to going it alone. 3, interest. Interests include hobbies, pastimes, media consumption habits, and what occupies someone's time. An example of this would be an online poker website, which they may discover a substantial proportion of its users enjoy watching football also. So this might prompt the company to use sporting analogies in their ad campaigns. An example would be to refer to a big tournament as the World Cup of online poker. Opinions, attitudes, and beliefs. Opinions, attitudes, and beliefs are distinct psychographic categories, but I've grouped them together because they tend to be strongly correlated. It's not a black and white science, but in general, religious beliefs or lack thereof can often predict political opinions and general worldview, and vice versa. So an example is if a women's clothing retailer discovered that much of their target market consists of deeply religious women from the southern US, they might consider displaying modest, old-fashioned dresses in their Facebook ads. Values. Someone's values describe their sense of right and wrong. Example is, if a food delivery service finds that their customers care deeply about the environment, they might benefit from delivering meals in biodegradable containers. Personalities, lifestyles, interests, opinions, attitudes, and beliefs, and of course, values. For marketers of consumer products as shown in these examples, these 5 elements might help you understand your target market, but these could just as easily lead you astray if they are inconsistent attributes for your buyers or irrelevant to the products and services you are marketing. All of this could impact your customer journey, i.e., where do they come from, obstacles, and resistance. Having a greater understanding of your customer, their struggles, pain points, desires, will assist you in crafting your offer. You may have more than one type of customer for the same product. Keep that in mind. Let's take a look at the Apple iPhone. Consider its usage. How does a businessman use the iPhone as opposed to a teenager? The businessman may use different apps as opposed to the teenager, or may spend different amounts of time doing different sort of events on the iPhone as opposed to, a teenager may just be looking to play around. So their events will certainly differ from that of someone who has to operate or see over a professional establishment. So both will use loads of features, but differently, and not necessarily all, but some will overlap. Chances are they will also have different values, interests, circles, communication styles, etc. So that's kind of what I was trying to infer or lead up to when I was doing my run-on speech. Okay, so you will not be able to craft the same offer for both or as a one-size-fits-all scenario, because this fellow is going to be attracted to something totally different as opposed to this individual over here, and vice versa. So make sure you are aware as to what their interests are and just who is going to be your target audience, okay? Understanding buyer's journey. This is where you aggregate everything you learn about the steps your buyers take, the resources they trust, and the influencers involved, from beginning to end. An example would be when someone considers buying a luxury watch. They might shop online, visit a few stores, and be influenced by articles they've read or their peers' recommendations. With that in mind, it makes sense to study. What did they first do, or what did they do first when they decided to shop for the new watch? In other words, what was their first action? How did they hear about the different brands they're considering, or who or what resources influenced their decision?